Before getting to this podcast, I wanted to announce that on May 4th, I will be having a live masterclass, and I'll be talking about the 3 fertility secrets you must know if you are trying to conceive. In it, you will learn why you may have been running into roadblocks on your way to motherhood and learn a few fertility secrets that can change that. During the teaching, I will also cover key fertility game changers when it comes to conceiving. I'm hoping you will join me and other women just like you to learn how to tap into your fertility potential, why your unique needs should be customized and addressed, how you can impact your body from your mind, and why you don't need to suffer on the fertility journey. Join me for this workshop on May 4th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. To register for this masterclass, go to michelleorbitz.com/register-fertility secrets. And if you want, you can find the link in the episode notes. I hope to see you there. Episode number 232 of the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. My guest today is Dr. Lisa Miller. Dr. Miller is the New York Times bestselling author of The Spiritual Child and a professor in the clinical psychology program at Teachers College, Columbia University. She is the founder and director of the Spiritual Mind-Body Institute, the first Ivy League graduate program and research institute in spirituality and psychology, and has held over a decade of joint appointments in the Department of Psychiatry at Columbia University Medical School. Her innovative research has been published in more than 100 peer-reviewed articles in leading journals, including Cerebral Cortex, the American Journal of Psychiatry, and the Journal of the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. Dr. Miller is the editor of the Oxford University Press Handbook and Psychology of Spirituality, founding co-editor-in-chief of the APA journal Spirituality in Clinic Practice, an elected fellow of the American Psychology Association, and 2-time president of the APA Society for Psychology and Spirituality. I found Dr. Miller on YouTube and heard her TEDx talk when she talked about her own fertility journey, and I was so amazed by her story. And then I ended up reading her book, The Awakened Brain, and this book was just so eye-opening for me because she talks about how spirituality can really impact depression, and that if you have some type of spiritual practice, it actually protects you from depression. And her fertility journey story is incredibly inspiring. So I was very excited to have her on. And she also has such an impressive background and really bases a lot of her information on sound science. So I'm very excited to speak with her today. Welcome to the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. I'm Michelle, a fertility acupuncturist here to provide you with resources on how to create a wholesome approach to your fertility journey. I am so excited to have you on, Dr. Lisa Miller. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so honored that you included me. Thank you for bringing me here today.
Well, I found your YouTube TEDx talk and I was floored by your story and just how everything came together so beautifully. It's like sometimes you feel like things are random and then things like that happen. And I think part of it is also answering to the calling and like all the signs and the messages that you get. But before we get into all the details, I would love for you to introduce yourself. You have quite an impressive background. So I'd love for you to just talk about your background and also the fertility journey.
So thank you, Michelle. I am a professor of 20 years at Columbia University, where I started the Spirituality Mind-Body Institute, which at its time was the first of its kind, to put S first, the education that we give, that the research that we conduct, that the convenience that we inspire are all foundationally spiritual in their perspective, in our language. We say it and speak it out loud.
I love it.
And in our, yeah. So why I find this incredibly relevant now is that I think having come out of this pandemic era, our plague, we're having a renaissance. It is an awakening. And every one of us is built and ready for this awakening. It's in our way we treat each other, and it's also in how we think of our own lives. And so, to the important work you're doing and leading, Michelle, and putting this discussion in the center through media, through voice, of our own paths, right? There's no greater brush with the nature of reality than when we're seeking to become parents. There's no greater plunge into what is true and real and sort of the spiritual bedrock versus our own wishes and sort of, command control steering from the top, of our head. And that comes to a fore around fertility. We grow as parents, no matter how our kids come. And I think fertility, when I think of fertility, I don't locate it literally in the conception alone. I think of fertility as sort of the abundant spiritual awareness that comes in and through the process. That fertility is located in, the spiritual growth of us as emerging parents. That fertility, life-givingness, procreativity is located in the discoveries of our relationship to who I call God, spirit, universe. That fertility is located in the child per se. They come at the right time in the right way for them and their journey as we form a spiritual family. So I love that you have the big mindedness and the open heart to sort of take fertility journey with a capital F, like all that it's really about. That it's not just about, I want a baby now and I got it or didn't.
Yeah. You have gone through all the different parts to the journey where at first you have an idea of how you want it to be, and then you start to kind of explore that with your husband, and then you start to have a different idea, and then a small idea comes to your mind, but you're like, nah, that's not going to be mine. And then because you kept getting like this insight, right? This voice in your head that was guiding you, but you weren't ready at first. And then you found what it was. I mean, it really hit you when you saw it, you knew. And I just find it so inspiring. And I also find it inspiring because I think that we do, as humans, we like the known and we like to know where we're going and design how it's going to look like. And sometimes the universe just has a different plan for us.
And that is infinitely more abundant. So that is fertility, right? This like birth of our true lives and our authentic path and all of the sort of infinite abundance that's in store. So I totally agree. The universe has a journey and we are in dialogue. We can turn our back, but it won't work.
Yep.
It won't work, right? The message gets louder. The pain of not listening gets more intense. The consequences of not listening get more intense. So we do have, I thought you put it beautifully, this deep inner wisdom that catches the voice. Can we really listen? Can we elevate that and say, yes, I'm hearing with my heart. I'm hearing with my soul. Yes. So in the Awaken brand, I talk about our journey that, I was 30 when we decided we wanted to have kids, and we'd been married for 5 years. We had, the lives we thought we wanted, the plans had been fulfilled. So we lived where we had wanted to live, and we had the jobs we had wanted to have in this sort of command control way. And everything that mattered to us, once we started feeling this terrible, horrible sinking feeling, like, why is no baby coming? Why is no baby coming? Was actually out of our control because we do not radically control life. God makes life, spirit makes life, whatever one's word is, source makes life, source of all life. So in our case, it was really, in my journey, almost, as if on each shoulder was a different voice. And on the left shoulder was research this, dig into this. There has to be a team that has higher rates of conception. Oh, well, if not in New York, there has to be a team in the Northeast that has higher rates of conception. More research, get on the phone, call friends who've had different types of success stories, research. And I had sticky fingers. I couldn't let go of that approach. Got to figure it out. So much so that we found ourselves eventually in the office of the doctor who invented in vitro, because surely the one who invented in vitro will get us pregnant. And that narrative is really more to its core a narrative of radical control. We are going to get pregnant. We're going to find the expert who can get us pregnant. And it's almost as if we were taking hammer to nail and building a structure. We're going to build this here, And that's not how babies are born. That's just not. They're emanations of source. They're all of us, sacred arrivals. And so in this stance that I've come to call achieving awareness, we need tactics and strategy in our life, but when do you realize that it's not working, achieving awareness? When do you realize that, research and tactics and plans on how best to get pregnant aren't working? And in our path, there was a banging at the door that just got louder until it was almost ear-shattering, which change your conversation with life. Stop treating life as if you can shop in life like an Amazon and order a baby and say when you want it. Stop thinking that what do I want? How am I going to get it as a way to move through life, and start paying attention to what is life showing you now. What is the deeper presence, who I call God, force in life, asking of you now? And that process was a real awakening. That was a shift from the narrow achieving awareness to an awakened awareness. And that's a different way of being. And that's what was born, as well as our children, through this path. In this way of being, an awakened way of being, people show up. There's synchronicities.
Right.
It doesn't matter what I've planned for today. You just got the biggest gift imaginable. You just got a synchronicity. And I'll share for one example, as I'm coming out of another failed in vitro. I'm completely depressed. I get on the bus to work, and this very unusual man, I'm late to work, gets on the bus. And he's quite an unusual gentleman. And I thought, oh no, he isn't really. He's walking down the middle of the bus towards me, this empty bus, late in the afternoon, 11. And he plops down immediately beside me, which is how synchronicities start. They are upending, they're a perturbation. I wasn't feeling social, right? It's annoying, right? And he looks, he leans way over and looks at me. And he says, "Hey lady, you look like exactly that type of nice lady that would go all around the world adopting kids."
Oh, wow. I don't remember this in the book. Was this in the book?
I don't remember if I put it in the book.
It was an audiobook. It could have been like at the moment like another car came and my attention went. Sometimes that happens with audiobooks, but that's incredible.
Well, that's a clear guidance. That is the most generous. And then he got off at the next stop. Who gets on a bus for one stop?
Right.
So I call that type of synchronicity a trail angel. He was a messenger. He was a messenger from who I call God, the source, saying, "Hey, lady, there's a child out there for you, and you're nice enough that you'll break through to what parenting really is, which is love and commitment. It's not like you have my husband's good looks, you have my sense of humor. No, it's love and commitment." And synchronicities like that lined our path. Could we do a practice?
Sure.
Great. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. So I'm going to invite you to take 5 breaths and clear out your inner space. Close your eyes if you'd like. I invite you to think of a time where you wanted something so badly and you prepared for it. You researched it and you came up with a strategy. A plus B plus C. It could have been you wanted him or her or them to say yes. It could have been you wanted a home, an apartment, a job, a promotion, an internship, a school admission. You wanted this thing so bad. You wanted a baby. And you got it all lined up, A plus B plus C. You go for your red door, you grab the handle, but the red door's stuck. And you can't believe the red door's stuck. It makes no sense. because you had A plus B plus C. You might kick the door, you might in time get frustrated or even depressed. But because the red door is stuck, you have no choice but to do a hairpin turn. 40 degrees, 100 degrees, 180 degrees, hairpin turn. Where over there, you see a shining, bright, open yellow door. You might have said, I've never thought of yellow doors, or yellow doors don't exist. But you cross this yellow door through the threshold to a landscape that is far brighter and better than what you'd envisioned. You did not get what you wanted. You got something better and better for you. And that yellow door has everything to do with who you are and where you are today. As you step back and you think of that shut red door, the hairpin turn, and the wide open yellow door, was there anyone there at the hairpin turn standing there who gave you direction, advice, told you a story, walked a walk? It could have been someone you met for 3 minutes at a party or a coffee shop. It could have been someone you've known and loved for years, like a best friend or a partner, or your grandma. They are a trail angel in your journey. And as you step way back and see shut red door, hairpin turn, trail angel, and wide open yellow door that has everything to do with where you are and who you are today, how really do our lives unfold? Are we narrowly makers of our paths? Do we get jobs and have babies? Or are we more foundationally discoverers of our journey? And now finally, as you step way, way back, where in your road of life is God, your higher power, whatever word is yours? Is God in the wide open yellow door and the stuck red door? Is God in the trail angel and your open heart to be in dialogue with what is life showing me now? What is God revealing to me now? Have you perhaps been on a spiritual path all along? When you're ready, I invite you back.
That was beautiful. That created such peace. And I also wanted to talk about, or have you share the story about how when you did finally find your path, how that opened up the connection between the different plan that you had versus the initial plan and how that all came together.
May I share a bit of the story?
Sure.
So in the Awakened Brain, I share very frankly that my husband and I were profoundly depressed. Mm-hmm. We did not understand, why is it that nobody's coming? Why is no child coming? And as we went deeper and deeper into the fertility treatments, in our case, for me in our journey, I had this deep feeling deep inside that for us, I was in the wrong office. And it didn't matter whether it was the inventor of in vitro in our path, I was in the wrong office. Mm-hmm. As I started to listen to that inner wisdom, saying, for you, I started noticing more and more trail angels, mm-hmm. more and more helpers and healers, from the guy on the bus, right, to a call from my chief trail angel, my mother, hi, honey, it's Mom.
I love that, chief trail angel.
To tell you, true angel, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, honey, I'm calling to tell you our neighbor, Eleanor Jones, she just adopted the most beautiful little boy from Russia. Mm-hmm. His name is Alan Paul. I just wanted to let you know. Yeah. And of course, very, very profound moments of confluence, synchronicities far too unprobabilistic to have happened by chance. So after the in vitro at this team, with the team, the medical team who'd invented in vitro, my husband joined me on a bed rest and, didn't want to leave me alone in this different city. So we splurged and we stayed for one night at a very nice hotel, took the remote to watch TV. I click on, and what should come on but an interminable 4-hour documentary. No other channel worked. My husband hid it on the nightstand, wouldn't move. It was this film. There's a boy, a little boy, maybe 8, 9 years old, alone, standing in a huge garbage dump. He's an orphan. And through the announcer, he says, I don't care that I live here in this garbage dump. I don't care that I can't go to school. But it hurts so much to not be loved that I sniff glue to make the pain go away. And I thought, this little boy wanted one thing in the whole world, which was parents. And here we are on, year 4 of ramped up medical procedures. We could have been a family all this time. He wanted parents, we wanted a child. Mm-hmm. And what stood between us and him, or another little boy or little girl, was I had created my own suffering. We, as a couple, had created our own suffering, which is being locked into an a priori plan, being locked into some idea, some story we told about we are going to get married and conceive and have a baby at now, right? That was our story. And it was a story that was so rooted in our mind that it almost seemed as if it were a reality versus a story. But meanwhile, at full blast, life, and I would say God, is showing us through synchronicity, through sacred alignments, hey, there's a child out there for you. And it was actually my husband who leaned over and used the words. He's like, there's a baby in this world for us.
Oh, I got the chills. Wow.
So we are being guided. We are being led. And we know through, I'm a clinical scientist. We know through fMRI studies, there's a neuroseat in every human being of perception through which we can feel this guidance and know this guidance as loving and holding. We are built with the capacity for a transcendent relationship. You might say your higher power. Mm-hmm. I call this relationship God. We are built, every one of us, whether we are Jewish or Hindu or Muslim or Christian or Catholic or spiritual but not religious, same nature as my cathedral. We all have this neurodocking station for a relationship, a deep, loving, lived relationship with a higher power. And synchronicity is one way of the guidance, loved, held, guided, and never alone, being shown. It's not just, a symbol. There's something about adoption. The guy on the bus is symbolizing adoption. No, it is a lived matrix of reality. And through that relationship, I awaken. I use my awakened awareness, and I literally transport into a different life ahead.
That's incredible. I study a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. What I love about what you do and what he does are similar in the sense that you're kind of taking spirituality and science and merging it to show that through science and through studying the brain, you can actually see that this is a real thing. It's not just this woo-woo thing that's kind of like some people just said and people just blindly follow. It's way more than that.
Oh, there's a very strong science. And I'm so glad you elevate this point, Michelle. And we've published MRI articles in very mainstream center field JAMA Psychiatry, American Journal of Psychiatry. This is peer-reviewed science, which means every article is reviewed 2 or 3 times, blind to the author, by 2 or 3 other scientists. These are facts. Insofar as science produces facts, these are published top peer-reviewed facts. So in addition, we have looked at, fellow scientists, I'm sharing the MR studies from our lab. Other scientists have looked at what is the backbone of synchronicity. How can whoever turns around the corner have anything to do with what's in your mind, right? How can seemingly one deep thing, one consciousness purpose that we meet, that a message shared, be existent to 2 separate people who started today in different places? How can one thing, sacred consciousness, be in at least 2 different places? You and your trail angel, right? So there's a beautiful study done by Achterhoff in which she put a traditional healer in one MRI machine and the patient in a separate MRI machine that was far away, often in a different building.
Mm-hmm.
And as the traditional healer started to do a spiritual healing, a predictable pattern came up on the fMRI. Not that surprising. But then, quite remarkably, the identical MRI pattern, the same mapping of blood flow, showed up in the patient's MRI, who was a block away in a different building, in a different MRI machine. One thing, sacred consciousness, in at least two places, the healer and the patient. Now, is it in more than two places? Absolutely. It's in and through all life. It's in trees and you and your beautiful audience and their families, existent now and to come, are all expressions of this sacred consciousness. And not only is it in us and through us, it emanates from source. Like the sun emits rays, we are emanations, you and your listeners and me and our children now and our children future, from source.
That is so amazing. I just love that so much. I love it so much because I think to myself, like there are some days that I say I go to a yoga studio, right? And then I happen to have one yoga teacher she's just so in tune. Sometimes I feel like she's inside my brain. She's telling me something, she's saying something to the class that is so personal to me that I needed to hear. And I think about my audience when I'm talking, and I know that somewhere some message, either from my guest or just something that seems so random for me to bring up, somehow will touch somebody on such a personal level that that's exactly what they needed to hear. And I've thought about that in the past just because it's happened to me, where I've listened to podcasts or listened to audiobooks or your audiobook or something really hit home, but it feels like it's customized, like a customized message. And then I'd have people reach out to me and say, you have no idea. Like, this is exactly what I needed to hear. And it just has this omnipresence to it.
And so magnificent that each and every one of us are both recipients of this very personalized consciousness guidance and trail angels for one another.
Yeah.
That we're all emanations, and God is so expansive and magnificent and beyond, sort of well beyond human capacity, that yes, each and every one of us simultaneously is loved, held, guided, and there for each other. And there's this grand orchestration, this sacred symphony.
Yeah.
You can feel when you're on key. You can feel when you're harmonizing.
Yes. As you were saying that, I'm thinking emotions, because emotions are the compass, really.
Yes.
If you constantly feel like you're not getting anywhere, you feel like discouraged, and it's just constant, it's this constant feeling or nagging, there's something that you need to listen to that you haven't yet listened to. And it's kind of like this.
Or if it's scraggly and edgy and everybody else has a problem, when I'm in a bad state of mind, I realize actually those emotions are an index. I am off the path. I am out of sync with the grand rhythm of life, the God guidance. That's a gift. That's like, hey.
It is a gift. It doesn't feel like a gift, but it's actually a really good thing. Just like symptoms, they're like the body's most genius design.
To get back on the path.
Correct.
Realign. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's symptoms of the body and symptoms in the body in our relationship with the field of life. Right. Beautiful. So I view our infertility journey in our case as a gradual migration from insisting that I'm the conductor to starting to join the orchestra and play for the grand conductor. Mm-hmm. And we made that shift when I said, everything I think I want, well, that's based only on today back. That's only old stories, old experiences. That's historical knowledge. And then when I shifted from that command control, mail order view of life to, God, what are you asking of me now? What is this synchronicity of all times today showing me? That we are guided. Where do you want me to go? What am I to see? And I paid more attention to the guiding synchronicity, and my heart grew open more. Then the red carpet rolled out. Mm-hmm. And then we found our way to the child who saved our lives, our beautiful spiritual child on the other side of the earth. So, then It was not what I wanted. It was better than I wanted. We found our yellow door.
That's amazing.
But by listening to trail angels, listening, really, hey, lady, you're just that type of lady to go around the world adopting babies. That is a direct message. And indeed, the red carpet rolled out when we went around the world adopting a baby.
It's incredible. Prophetic. It's just it really is so amazing. And then also this baby brought his sister.
Yes. I mean, I'll share with you that in the path as the synchronicities heated up, I gained awareness. I moved from this sense of trying to be my own conductor, marching off key, to aligning with the rhythm of life, listening to life and being in step with life and listening to God. And I'll share with you, another synchronicity, which was after what turned out to be our last in vitro. I came home, and again, I had that haunting feeling in my inner wisdom that I was not listening to the guidance. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, on the front door of our house, literally in front of our house, at the front door, was a little glossy smudge, and I couldn't figure out what it was. So I got closer, and right there on my doorstep was a dead embryo, a little tiny dead duck embryo, wings spread out, cold, and the moist fluid from the mother. And I thought, there's no way this is in vitro is going to take. I mean, but it didn't feel like I was being condemned. It felt like I was being guided, and that I was actually loved and held in seeing that which I had not wanted, that which I had not mail ordered or shopped from life. Like I was being shown, no, but you're loved and held. You're on a path. And still depressed, I went to bed, totally depressed. And then I heard waking me up. It was a mama duck, the mama who lost that baby. And she'd come to me. She knew, and she had a worm in her mouth. She brought me her treasure.
Oh, I remember this story, but I'm getting the chills all over again.
Her greatest treasure. It was like a cross between love and a condolence call and encouragement and renewal. And I realized, every living being is part of this symphony, except unfortunately, we humans sometimes plug our ears and gouge out our eyes, but there is a symphony, and we can choose to awaken. We can use our awakened awareness and be in the symphony where miracles happen. And in our case, there was a very sacred process. As I started to get the picture, a very sacred presence came one night. I was asleep in my bed, husband asleep next to me, and suddenly the sacred presence comes. I sit up, I wake up, and it was absolutely sacred. The feeling was so ecstatic and loving, and time and space open. And a very deep, profound presence asks, if you were pregnant, would you adopt? And I could feel the sanctity. And I said, we can only be honest. In that moment, I said, no. Mm-hmm. No, I'm getting closer. But no. As we went further down the path, the presence came back. And I said, I'm closer, but no. Well, there was a big synchronicity that happened, this guidance, which was I got a call from my big cousin, Jane. I'm little Jane. She's big Jane. And she called and she said, you've got to come out here to South Dakota. And I said, well, we've just met with a woman who runs an adoption agency. I said, I don't need to come. She said, no, you need to come out. Well, the adoption agency was an extraordinary experience. There was a woman who was a rabbi's daughter who goes all around the world finding families, putting families together, finding little babies and bringing them home to their new family. We'd gone to see her sitting there, very, very profound work. She'd leaned it forward. So the clergyman's daughter, a rabbi's daughter, leaned forward and said to my husband and I, what do you want in a baby? And all day long, I'm sure she hears people come from the view of mail order. I want this. I said, I don't care what race this child is. I don't care if it's a boy or a girl, but please, a child who can love. I care that we can bond. And my husband sort of leans in and says, yeah, all that, a kind of a girl. And then I sort of lean over him and I said, but really a child who can love. Mm-hmm. So I had felt like that process was underway when I got a call from my big cousin, Jane. So she's Big Jane. I'm Little Jane. My name's Lisa Jane. Hey, little cuz, I know you're looking for your child. I know you think about spirituality. You want to come out here and come to a healing ceremony. I've gotten permission from the chief. It was a clear synchronicity. It was a call. So I canceled all my appointments, right? Achieving awareness, all my plans and strategies for that week. I got on a plane. I went out to join a healing ceremony of the Lakota.
Oh,
And
that's
there
cool.
in the Inipi, which you know is a sacred sweat lodge, we went around and each woman spoke why she'd come. The medicine man's wife said, please tell us why you've come. And the first woman said, my son is 40 and he's no longer coming home. I'm worried for him. And the next woman said, my son is 14. He's starting to use drugs and alcohol. I'm worried he'll get addicted. We went all the way around the circle to Big Jane, who said, I'm here with my little cousin, Little Jane, and she's searching for her child. I'm wondering if we could help her with that. And all the women looked right at me with knowing. I said, yes. And I finally was sure I was in the right place. We prayed. We prayed for each other, and we prayed for us, the sort of the collection, the collective spirit, and set that up to the top of the Inipi. I could see it, literally numinous in my mind's eye, Michelle. And then that night, as I slept in South Dakota, there was a call that came into our machine in New York. And it said, we have found the Miller's child. Wow. This is after 5 years of tears and travails. We have found the Miller's child, and we have wonderful children. And Mr. Miller had asked for a girl. But this is the Miller's child, said the clergyman's daughter. And this is a son.
Wow.
So you can imagine there was this joy, and it was certain to me that the prayers of the Lakota had contributed to finding our son as we prayed for sons together. I came home a week later. The video came, and there was the most glorious, joyous soul, a just bright, radiant soul. His arm swung around the nurse. He was in St. Petersburg, Russia.
Oh.
Pure love. I felt this blast of love. And Michelle, in that second, I became a parent. I felt a tidal wave of love, exponentially bigger through my heart, through my body than I had ever imagined. It was not a yellow door. It was a yellow, grand parade. It was extraordinary. I felt so well. That night, the presents came. It was the third time. If you were pregnant, would you adopt? I said, absolutely. This was my spiritual son. And that night, we naturally conceived his sister. Spiritual.
This story, I get goosebumps all over my body. I just feel electricity as you're telling me this story. It really touches my heart, like on so many levels. It's just an amazing, amazing story and reality.
So big F, sacred fertility, is everywhere in this story. And this story is all of our story. You can change the narrative this way and that, but the big realization is that actually the right child comes in the right way at the right time. Mm-hmm. And that it is parenting that is love and commitment that welcomes the right child.
Oh my God, I love it. And I know you have to go, so I want to also talk about one other thing about spirituality in the brain, because I know that you say spirituality can protect you from depression and probably so many other things. And I want to talk about how that is seen, what you've studied, what you've seen. What do you see in the brain?
So as our story shows, and our story in actually as miraculous and sacred as I experience it, is something that we all experience, which is a developmental depression, not getting what we want, seeing life through radical mail order, command control, mm-hmm. and having the realization through a developmental depression that, wait a minute, this existential longing, this pain in my heart, this despair of not getting what I want, my loss of this child, this in vitro, right, actually is the knock at the door for an emergence of a much bigger way of being. It's a rise of a spiritual awakening. Developmental depression is the knock at the door for spiritual awakening. And we see it in the brain, and it is the case more often than not. Every so often, there's a little piece broken, less than I'd say a third of the time, and it needs treatment of a medical type. But 2/3 of the time, at least, depression is a knock at the door as we rise up to inherit the next station in our life, to expand how deeply and profoundly we love. God is guiding us, and the ignition is this grapple with life not being what we want and feeling totally at odds and feeling this horrible dread and the anxiety. That is, move on, move out. What is another way of being? Open your heart, love even more, love even if love doesn't come back. Love, you're a source of love. Know that synchronistically through visitations or mystical experiences or dreams, you are guided through trail angels, and you are never alone. That deep stance, I don't know what life will look like as an outcome. What is certain is the sure stance of quest, that life is a sacred journey of discovery. That is illuminating. And when we make that transformation, we see change in the brain. The brain grows thick and strong in regions of perception and reflection and orientation. So we could have the same cast of characters and the same job, and it looks different through our strengthened, awakened brain. We all can do this. We all have this. And in the Awakened Brain, I share the science and also stories of many people who've had this journey from despair and developmental depression to spiritual awakening. And our awakened brain is built for this. We will get there if we say yes to the journey.
Oh my God. I knew, you have no idea. Since the time I reached out to you, or since the time I read your book, I was like, I have to get her on the podcast because I know that your message is going to really awaken so many people, inspire something within them. And I just, I love this information so much. And you guys have to get this book, The Awakened Brain. It is mind blowing. It really is so incredible. And of course, I can talk to you for hours, and I know that you have to go. So if people want to reach out to you and want to find out more about you, how can they find you?
Thank you. So on Instagram, it's dr. Lisa Miller. And I'm grateful to share with people in any way that they will find supportive and helpful. I think the ultimate meaning in the Awakened Brain, as it pertains to this precious community of which I'm a part and speaks so deeply to my heart and soul, is that really the journey that my husband and I took for 5 years revealed that yes, the right child comes in the right way at the right time, but it also revealed that the fertility journey is not just the realization of your child, it is the birth of us as mothers and fathers. It is our awakening.
I feel like you are a channel of divine wisdom. I really do. I feel that you acknowledge divine wisdom so much that you now really co-create and co-speak this wisdom.
And I feel that in you, Michelle, and I feel that in the presence of your community that we can feel. This is a sacred community.
It sure is. Wow, Dr. Lisa Miller, thank you so much for your presence today and your wisdom and your story. And thank you so much for sharing all of this information, because I just know that people are like, they're going to listen to this a couple of times. I really feel like this episode is really special. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Michelle. And you are very special.
Aw.
So that concludes today's episode. You can find all of the links mentioned on the episode notes. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to share and leave a review. Reviews mean everything to podcasters, and I really enjoy hearing from my listeners. You can also find me on my website at www.thewholesomelotus.com or email me at info@thewholesomelotus.com. I love hearing from my listeners. If you're interested and want updates as well as a free ebook on my top 10 fertility boosting habits, you can visit my fertility page on www.thewholesomelotus.com. I thank you so much for listening in and hope that you have a beautiful day.